So today we have 2 new confirmed cases and 1 new probable case of COVID-19 to report. However, there is actually no change in the total number of COVID-19 cases in New Zealand, which remains at 1,451, the same as yesterday. Let me briefly explain. There were 3 cases we reported yesterday who were confirmed cases off the Greg Mortimer ship that had been where people had been repatriated from Uruguay. However, we understand that their original testing was done in Uruguay, and we are checking with the authorities there as to whether they have already reported them to the WHO to make sure that the World Health Organization totals are accurate. So to report, again, just to reiterate, 2 new confirmed and 1 new probable case. Our laboratories processed a record 6,480 tests yesterday. So if you look at the new confirmed cases, less than 0.05% were positive. And we've now processed 101,277 tests for COVID-19. All the cases we're reporting today are linked to existing cases. Sadly, today I have 2 further deaths to report as a result of COVID-19 infection. A patient has died who has been very unwell in intensive care in Dunedin Hospital with COVID-19 since 7th of April. She was in her 60s and had an underlying health condition. While her family had not been able to visit her over the past few weeks, arrangements were made for them to be with her last night as she passed away. The second death is a resident at Rosewood Rest Home in Christchurch. This man in his 70s passed away in the hospital level wing of that unit last night. He was not part of the group that had been transferred to Burwood Hospital. The man had an underlying condition, and while he had tested negative for COVID-19, he was considered a probable case based on his exposure and symptoms. And as I have said before, these probable cases are treated as if they are positive and managed in the same way, and we are including them in all our statistics, including our mortality statistics. My sympathies go out to the families of both of these people, and once again we are reminded of the serious threat that this infection poses to individuals and our communities. Today there are 8 people in hospital with COVID-19 and 1 person is in ICU in Middlemore Hospital. There are still the same 16 significant clusters, and 4 additional cases have now been linked to those clusters. Some brief comments on health services under level 3 in advance of heading into that alert level. So hospitals remain open for emergency and acute care, of course, and I encourage all people to seek acute care for whatever their condition through either Healthline or their GP or at the hospital. Some elective services, including surgery and radiology, will be provided under Alert Level 3, and more detail will follow on that. In aged residential care, only family visits for palliative and compassionate care reasons will be considered, and that will be on a case-by-case basis. General practices, of course, will be open as they have been through Alert Level 4, and they will be continuing to conduct virtual consultations as much as possible. If you have symptoms of COVID-19 or respiratory symptoms, please seek help through Healthline or by calling ahead to your regular doctor. Community pharmacies remain open. Dental services may provide urgent face-to-face appointments under Alert Level 3, but not routine dental care. Community midwives will continue to do the fantastic work they do with pregnant women out in the community, using virtual means where possible, but also face-to-face. And there will be an allowance for some face-to-face services for physiotherapy, podiatry and optometry and so on, where urgent care is required, but they will continue to provide services as much as possible virtually. And finally, community mental health service appointments will continue to be done by virtual means or by phone where possible, face-to-face appointments if necessary. And you'll have seen the Minister of Health just announce that he's asked me to do a quick stock take around all our district health boards on the processes they are using to distribute PPE to our providers based in the community, so we can get an idea of what PPE is going out, how quickly they are responding to orders, and how any concerns are dealt with. Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you, Dr. Bloomfield. Later today, the Director of Civil Defence Emergency Management, Sarah Stewart-Black, will give an update on what our civil defence groups across the country have been doing to support vulnerable New Zealanders. She'll also be joined by Police Commissioner Andy Costa for a briefing. The work that's been done by our civil defence group may be going unnoticed to the vast majority of New Zealanders while everyone is in their bubbles, but it is work that keeps people who would otherwise be without fed, warm and well. We have been working hard to ensure that we're meeting need where it exists, which is why yesterday we put another $30 million into our civil defence group so they can keep providing food parcels, household goods and accommodation where it's required. And that follows the immediate assistance, you'll remember some time ago, of $27 million put in to support that work. And so on the ground, 16 local civil defence groups are doing what they do best. They're coordinating across all government agencies, organisations including NGOs, iwi and community-based groups. While COVID-19 may seem like a different kind of emergency to what we've dealt with in recent years, like floods and fires, the role of civil defence is very much the same, ensuring communities, individuals, families and whānau have the support they need. There is an 0800 number for every group that people can call if they are out of supplies or struggling to get basic food. They've been providing emergency accommodation, a stopgap service, before they are referred to NB's temporary accommodation service. This is business as usual for them, but they also now have powers activated by the state of national emergency in support of the COVID-19 response, as you're all well aware. So far, that's been used for things like closing roads to prevent vehicle access to backcountry to stop activities that might result in rescue activity. In Taranaki, they have moved on freedom campers. In Canterbury, they've requisitioned a car park for use as a community-based assessment centre. Coordination is a role not to be underestimated. It's what helps get what is required to those who need it most. And I do want to pass on my thanks to the amazing work that's been done by those civil defence groups in our local areas. Short word on hunting. While food parcels keep families fed, we know that in many parts of New Zealand, hunting is also a part of providing for many people's families and whānau. You would have seen that decisions have now been made for this activity alert level 3. Hunting can go ahead under alert level 3 so long as you stay in your region, so long as you stay in your bubble, and we're asking that people please don't put themselves at risk of needing rescue. So that means don't use quad bikes, off-road motorbikes or any motorised vehicles for the purposes of hunting. Dock land is closed for tramping and other activities and also for hunting at level 3. On private land, you'll of course need landowners' permission. Hunting is an important part of life for many New Zealanders. In many places around the country, it fills freezers for the months ahead. It also rids farmland of pests. And these restrictions allow for it to happen safely and in a way that minimises the risk of losing the great progress that we've made, and also is in keeping with the principles that we've set out for Alert Level 3 around travel, around bubbles and around activity. We've also had discussions with Fish and Game about the duck hunting season. As many of you will know, the season is gazetted in advance and was due to begin on the 2nd of May. Cabinet was concerned that under the Level 3 guidelines for hunting, some people would be excluded from the season, perhaps in part because they lived at too great a distance to where they may need to be. There was also concern that if it started soon and people weren't able to take part, it would end up being a shorter season for some people. For that reason, the duck hunting season will go ahead in the second weekend after New Zealand moves to Alert Level 2. The season, once it gets underway, will be extended to make up for the delay. I know this will be disappointing for many, but we recognise that opening weekend is quite a social event for many people, and we still must reduce down contact at Level 3 as much as possible. This decision means all those who usually take part in duck hunting will be able to, just on a slightly different time frame than otherwise. I also want to be clear that hunting will be able to resume normally at level 2 once we get there. Just today is not that day. On Saturday, Anzac Day, I will be one of many New Zealanders who will take part in an initiative called Stand at Dawn. The RSA has encouraged all of us to commemorate our service personnel by standing at the end of our driveways or near our letterboxes at 6 a.m. to stand at dawn. I know how hard it will be this year, our first Anzac Day in history where services have been cancelled due to Covid-19. But that doesn't mean we can't show our support as a collective. As dawn breaks, we can stand at the end of those driveways and together in silence and pay tribute to those we should never forget. We can still take time to pause, reflect and pay our respects to the people who have given so much to us. This year we are calling for all Kiwis worldwide to stand at their letterbox, their front door, their balcony or their essential place of work at 6 a.m. on April the 25th. The official dawn service broadcast will be on RNZ National Radio at 6 a.m. and will include an address by the Minister of Defence and Minister for Veterans, Ron Mark. If anyone wants to find out more details, I encourage you to visit standatdawn.com. And so in the spirit of recognising those who have been a part of our COVID-19 response, today I want to thank the New Zealand Defence Force, past, present and future, for all that you do to keep peace, to keep us safe, to help us recover from natural disasters, to help our Pacific neighbours, to reflect our strength of spirit across the world, and more recently, for your work on COVID-19. Some 60 expert planners and logistics personnel have helped with central government operations such as health and police centres, as well as regional emergency operations centres. More than 600 have helped to manage isolation facilities and distribute care packages to those in need. This comes alongside usual work such as search and rescue and disaster relief. I'd like to make special mention of the crews from 5 Squadron and 40 Squadron of the Royal New Zealand Air Force, who have also been flying relief flights in support of our Pacific neighbours in Vanuatu, Fiji and Tonga, who have been hard hit by Tropical Cyclone Harold. We, as always, are grateful for your service. Thank you.